Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Here's a story about a homeowner's saga with a relentless HOA president who made life difficult over the smallest issues. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. HOA president is spineless coward. Let me preface this by saying my wife and I are renting our house and moving away from this neighborhood. Had this not been the case, I would have leveraged the clothes off back to screw this clown. The day we moved in, 2 years ago, this jerk was out for my wife and I. We're the youngest in the neighborhood and the newest residents. There's a large crap house grass field across the street from my house, referred to as a common area, which is code for dog toilet. This is where residents let their dog do their things with impunity, because they're deemed worthy by the almighty HOA Lord. Anyway, first week we move in, we naturally have a tasteful housewarming party in the middle of summer, invite friends and family, and they fill our driveway with cars, and some park in the gravel easement on the common area across the street from my house. HOA crapbag marches right up to my door during the party to complain about us destroying the grass. Cars are on gravel, first sign of stupidity, but this is where crap gets interesting. My father-in-law answers the door, informs the HOA turd that he's not the homeowner, but will get the homeowner. My father-in-law gets my wife, who's an Asian-American female, and she comes to the door to deal with this guy. The dude refuses to talk to her. He makes her go get me. I promptly tell the guy to F off, and he does. However, I didn't realize what took place before telling him to pound sand until my wife told me after he left. I'm not saying something went on there, but that crap sure doesn't look right to me. Then a miscellaneous amount of bull crap happens to us over the next 2 years. Every single time something happens in that grass lot, I get blamed, regardless of my level of involvement. One of HOA president's despot buddies goes on this neighborhood Facebook group to make some crappy comments about how I mow my grass and walk my dog. Not stating it was about me directly, but worded in a way that everyone would know. I guess my mowing and dog walking skills aren't up to par. Then, to my infinite joy, the entire neighborhood crushes this guy in Facebook before I can even make a comment. Loved it. More parking nonsense. My wife carpools and her friend parks a car in front of our houses 2 days a week. HOA Nazi and his buddies ring my doorbell incessantly to ask for the car to be moved. It's not impeding traffic or violating a bylaw, just an excuse to drop by and try to give me a heart attack. My wife and I are getting ready to rent the house. We pay our nominal HOA fee annually. It's supposed to pay for mowing that crap farm across the street from my house. I was always a little suspect regarding the amount we pay in relation to the level of maintenance achieved over there, but I'm too lazy to engage in full legal battle with this moron. Anyway, we need to get a receipt for paying our dues so we can present it to the rental manager. My wife goes down there to get it. The guy has no receipts, nothing. Then he tells my wife she needs to come back at all these arbitrary times. She works like a normal human, so this is incredibly difficult. Finally, my wife threatens to have the HOA audited, and a handwritten receipt appears in my mailbox. Final straw. As I said, my wife and I are moving soon. I had to back a trailer into my driveway to prepare for the move. To get it in, I had to drive my truck into the grass mud hole across the street from my house. Of course, I get stuck and dig the grass up. I'm like, crap, this guy's going to be up my butt over this. So I start making plans to rake the ruts and put grass seed over it before he wages war on me. Well, I couldn't move fast enough. I did it on Sunday night around 5 p.m. He'd called the cops on for a destruction of property complaint by 7 a.m. on Monday. The cops laughed it off and told me to give it the old college try when fixing the grass. Needless to say, I had some words with that HOA president. I told him how much of a whiny coward he was and that all he had to do was confirm with me that I was going to rectify his crap field, plus a bunch of screaming. 10 more days and we're moving. That guy got bullied in school. He's now taking it out on other people. I guarantee it. And our second story. Want to discipline me for being right? I got you. I work for a freight delivery company, drive a semi-truck, and usually go out with 10 to 15 deliveries a day. Our policy is that when you deliver to a resident, you have to take a picture with the work phone as an additional proof of delivery. That's morphed into now if the delivery receipt says residential, you have to take a picture of it, regardless if it's going to a business or a house. There's so many small details on a DR that can get missed, so this is an important detail. One day last week, I have a delivery for Laura Lopez. Name changed. It was being delivered to a construction company that Laura's an employee of. The DR does not say it's residential. I make the delivery and leave. No picture. Next morning, my B of a supervisor says, I have a write-up for you. Puzzled, I ask her for what? For the Laura Lopez delivery yesterday. It was residential. I explained to her that it was at a business and the DR did not say residential. She wasn't having it. I should also mention that her and I butt heads often. She's been trying to get rid of me for some time. I told her that we need to go talk to my manager about it, so we do, and he sides with me because she has no ground to stand on. This infuriates her. I tell her that under no circumstances will this be an issue again. That day is when I start my MC. I take pictures with the work phone at every stop. What happens is when I hit depart on the work phone, it sends a pop-up to her computer with the picture, and she has to acknowledge it before she can do anything else on her computer. I crashed her computer 3 times that day. At one stop, I took 20 pictures. I get a call from her telling me that I have to stop taking pictures. I politely tell her that I'm covering my butt and not going against policy. I'm giving you an order. I laugh and hang up. Sure as crap, she wrote me up for it. I don't even argue. I say we need to take it to my manager. I walk in and he says, "What now?" I tell him the story. He looks at her, takes the write-up and rips it up. Are you seriously writing him up for overperforming? She had no words. And I still take a picture at every stop because I'm petty. LOL. Your supervisor is what costs companies money. I'm glad your boss has your back in this situation. And our next story. I've been paying for my neighbor's gas for the last 3 years. I'm living in a single-family home that was converted into 2 apartments for tenants. I've been here for nearly 3 years. When I first moved in, I set up my Nicor gas account as usual. My apartment's 1.5 bedrooms with a stove and radiators that get turned on around October. But I don't have control over the heat settings. My neighbor also has a stove, washer, dryer, and radiators. A week ago, there was a gas leak, and a Nicor technician came out. He noticed 2 gas meters on the side of the house, but found that only one was active, mine. The other meter had been off since May, and there was no other info on it since it wasn't in my name. Yesterday, another Nicor tech came for the neighbor and left a note saying that 3-way piping in the basement feeds both units, so it turns out that regardless of which meter is active, my gas feeds into the neighbor's unit as well. From what I read about the law, this seems illegal. I found information online saying that if your bill is very high, you should check for a utility tap where someone uses your utilities without permission. In my case, looks like my neighbor's unit's hooked into my meter, meaning I'm paying for their gas usage too. I've always noticed my gas bill being abnormally high for the size of my unit and my usage, so I contacted the Illinois Chamber of Commerce, filed a complaint, and they advised me to speak to Nicor. Nicor, however, told me this was an issue for my landlord to resolve. Before approaching my landlord, I wanted to ensure I had everything in order. I gathered all the evidence, the notes from the Nicor technicians, my gas bills, and any correspondence with Nicor and the Chamber of Commerce. I also took pictures of the gas meters and the piping in the basement for additional proof. With all this documentation, I scheduled a meeting with my landlord. I explained the situation clearly and calmly, showing the evidence I'd collected. I emphasized that this setup was not only unfair, but likely illegal, and that it needed to be resolved immediately. Thankfully, my landlord took the issue seriously. He arranged for a licensed plumber to come and inspect the piping and meters. The plumber confirmed the illegal tap and reconfigured the system so that each unit had its own properly functioning meter. The landlord also reimbursed me for the overcharges on my gas bill from the past few months. And our last story. The neighbor wanted part of our property. My fiancé had been searching for the perfect house for over 2 years. When he finally found one in Shelbyville, Kentucky in December of 2021, he was thrilled. The property seemed like everything he'd been looking for, and he couldn't wait to make it ours. However, during the closing process, the realtor, clearly eager to finalize the sale and collect her commission, urged him not to get a land survey. Unfortunately, in his excitement and eagerness to move forward, he decided to skip it. It felt like a small detail at the time, but it turned out to be a decision that would later come back to haunt us. In April 2023, after we'd settled into our new home and were enjoying our life together, a strong storm rolled through the area. The storm was intense, and it knocked over part of the fence that ran along the boundary between our property and the neighbors. The current tenant of the neighboring property was about to tear the fence down completely, but my fiancé, wanting to maintain a good relationship and ensure our chickens stayed safe from their dogs, offered to rebuild the fence at no cost. The tenant and the property owner were more than happy with this arrangement, and we thought we were doing a good deed. However, as my fiancé started digging holes for the new fence posts, he noticed something strange. The fence didn't run in a straight line from the road to the back of the property as it should have. This seemed odd, so we decided to dig a little deeper. We looked at the official zoning map and noticed that the boundary line between our property and the neighbors ran straight back to the railroad, which sat between both properties. This discovery made us uneasy, so we called the PVA office to get more detailed records. The boundaries they provided also indicated that the line was straight, just as the zoning map showed. This was a red flag because the fence was clearly veering off course. To complicate matters even further, there was a shed that appeared to be built about 3/4 on our property and only 1/4 on the neighbors, but the entire shed was on their side of the fence. At this point, we realized we needed to get to the bottom of this. We reached out to the owner of the rental property next door and asked him to come over so we could discuss the situation. When he arrived, we showed him the boundaries from the zoning map and the PVA office. He listened and then said, "Look, I understand that if this is your property, you want ownership of it, but that fence has been here since I bought the property over 10 years ago, and I assumed everything on my side of the fence was mine." He then insisted we would need a land survey to prove our claim. We agreed that getting a survey was the logical next step, but then he added something that caught us off guard. "Even if the survey shows it's your land, I might still take you to court," he said. "I think I'm grandfathered into owning this land because the fence has been here for so long." This was not what we wanted to hear. We knew that under Kentucky's adverse possession law, the statute of limitations was 15 years. The neighbor had owned his property since 2012, so technically we had about 3 years to file a lawsuit to reclaim the land. But there was another issue. Since there was a fence and a shed on the property, he might be able to claim what's known as a color of title, which could reduce the statute of limitations to just 7 years. It was a lot to take in, and we realized we needed to act quickly. We immediately hired a professional surveyor to establish the true property lines. It took a few weeks to schedule the survey, and during that time we felt a mix of anxiety and determination. We were determined to stand up for our rights, but we also knew this could turn into a long and drawn-out legal battle. When the surveyor finally completed the job, the results were clear. The fence and shed were indeed on our land, and we had every legal right to reclaim it. Armed with this information, we took the neighbor to court. The process wasn't easy, and it took several months of back and forth with lawyers, gathering evidence, and attending hearings. But in the end, the court sided with us. The judge ruled that the neighbor had no legal claim to our property, and he ordered that the fence be moved to the correct boundary line. As for the shed, the neighbor was required to either move it entirely onto his land or dismantle it. The victory was sweet. To ensure there would be no further disputes, we also had our attorney issue a cease and desist letter to the neighbor, warning him that any further attempts to claim our land or harass us would result in immediate legal action. That put an end to the matter once and for all. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.